KREM 2 News at 5 starts now.
And we start with breaking news from Coeur d'Alene. That is Pastor Tim Remington led the prayer at the Ted Cruz rally yesterday, was shot in his church parking lot this afternoon, but survived, with that shooter still at large. Right now at 5 o'clock. This is KREM 2 News at 5. I'm Sten Wallstrom. This happened just before 2 this afternoon at the Altar Church on 9th and Best in Coeur d'Alene. Pastor Remington was shot multiple times in the back as he walked to his car, but was able to talk to the EMS crew on scene before he was taken to Kootenai Medical Center, where he is right now. Let's bring in live from Coeur d'Alene, KREM 2's Ryan Sims on the scene, where he's been talking to witnesses this afternoon and has more from them and on what happened.
Yes, Dan, you know, for these church members here in Coeur d'Alene, the news really doesn't get more shocking than this. At this hour, we are told that Pastor Tim Remington is in stable condition, obviously good news. But meantime, the search for the shooter continues. And in the meantime, you can really see behind me that this area, the church, has become a staging ground really not only for police, but also for church members. That's because many of them have not left this scene since the shooting happened. And really in a show of compassion, church members say they're not only praying for their leader, but also the person who shot him. Again, we can confirm tonight that pastor is Tim Remington. I'm told he's been the head of this church for more than a decade, and really in a sign of his prominence here in the Coeur d'Alene area, we're told that he was the pastor who prayed with Ted Cruz only yesterday. As for how this shooting happened today, police are still investigating. Church members tell me that Pastor Remington was shot at least 4 times in the back as he walked to his car this afternoon. And at this time, the shooter is still on the loose as an entire congregation prays for its leader.
We just want to be here for everyone in our congregation, just be here for Pastor. We're going to go to the hospital and wait for word and just make sure he's okay.
He opens his home to people, takes them in, lets them live in his home, you know. All the people that society has turned their backs on, he goes out and he reaches out to them.
And again, Pastor Remington is in stable condition at this time. Police still do not have any information on the possible shooter in this case. As you might imagine, they're going to be out here for a while longer investigating. But I got to say, in our time here, it really has been a tremendous show of support with many of the church members here. They have been here again all afternoon, and really in a sign of really the close-knit aspect of this congregation. I asked one church member how many family members that Pastor Remington has. That church member's response, he has hundreds tonight, as really an entire church prays and really hopes that its leader will recover from really an awful afternoon here in Coeur d'Alene. Reporting live from Coeur d'Alene this evening, Ryan Sims, KREM 2 News.
Hey Ryan, the folks that you've talked to out there this afternoon and into this evening, did they seem to have knowledge that he was at that Cruz rally yesterday, or are they just trying to process just how horrible this act was there in his church parking lot today?
No, I mean, actually, that's what everybody spoke about. Just the irony behind this whole thing that yesterday he took such a prominence at Ted Cruz's rally that he really was one of the main people to represent the Coeur d'Alene community, and just 24 hours later he is in the hospital, shot several times, and really making national news tonight on a vastly different scale than what he was doing 24 hours ago. But yeah, it really is the talk of the church tonight, just how fast things have changed in the past day, unfortunately.
And this morning, authorities are searching for the suspect in yesterday's shooting of church pastor in Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene police say that the suspect is this man, Kyle Odom. He is considered armed and dangerous.
Pastor Tim shot in the back several times in the parking lot of his own Coeur d'Alene church. Tonight, Pastor Tim is alive and recovering as his congregation and the Coeur d'Alene community come together to support him, as he has supported hundreds of people who needed his help in the past.
For anybody who needs help, he will give up his life to go after them and just show them the love of God.
At the same time, police search for the suspected shooter, a Marine with close ties to Coeur d'Alene. Tonight, KREM 2 News brings you unmatched coverage of the region's biggest story.
KREM 2 News at 5 starts now.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
And I'm Jane McCarthy. We are live in Coeur d'Alene tonight following up on the shooting of Pastor Tim Remington. The suspect is still on the loose tonight.
Remington was shot 4 times in the back as he walked to his car right here in this parking lot behind us yesterday afternoon. The suspect is Kyle Odom.
We want to tell you about Odom. He's 30 years old. He has blonde hair and blue eyes. He is 6 feet tall, about 170 pounds. Now, he may be driving a 2004 silver Honda Accord with Idaho plates K578519.
Odom was a Marine. He worked as a flight equipment technician back in 2009. He also earned several awards throughout his service. Police do want to remind people he should be considered armed and dangerous.
We want to turn now to KREM 2's Taylor Vito, who attended a news conference late this afternoon. Taylor has the very latest tonight.
Well, first of all, police say that it appears that the suspect planned out this attack. What his motive was or how he knew the victim, that's not exactly clear at this point, but we do know that the shooting was captured on security cameras.
However, it does appear that this was a pre-planned attack, and I will tell you that some details surrounding Mr. Odom's planning are disturbing.
As to what those details are, Coeur d'Alene police aren't releasing much as they continue to investigate this brazen shooting. Yesterday afternoon, investigators say 30-year-old Kyle Odom walked up to Pastor Tim Remington in the parking lot of his Coeur d'Alene church and shot him several times. Police wouldn't specify how many times Remington was shot, but they said it was captured on security camera.
The video footage that we have from this event was absolutely priceless. It was extremely helpful.
Cameras would later capture Odom fleeing into Washington state. Authorities believe he then headed south, but they're not clear where he's at right now. Tonight, we've also learned that Odom is a Marine and served overseas. He's a graduate of Lake City High in Coeur d'Alene. He also graduated from the University of Idaho with a science degree, where he was a near-perfect student. At this hour, it's not clear what his connection was to Remington, or if the shooting had any ties to Remington's prayer at a Ted Cruz rally the day before. Coeur d'Alene police added that they believe he acted alone.
And after talking with people who knew Mr. Odom, it causes great concern for his immediate well-being and the well-being of those around him.
And police say they haven't been able to speak with Pastor Remington about the shooting just yet. They say that they don't believe anyone in the public is in danger at this point. However, they previously have said that Odom is considered to be armed and dangerous and is not to be approached. Reporting live outside the Coeur d'Alene Police Department, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
We also spoke with a man who was inside his house yesterday when he heard those gunshots ring out.
That's right. KREM 2's Molly Trotter reports that man says he looked out his window and he saw the shooter standing over the pastor.
With such a vicious attack that happened at this church here in Coeur d'Alene, we took to the streets to see if anybody saw what happened, and we actually found an eyewitness who saw it all unfold right across the street. A Coeur d'Alene neighborhood was shaken up by the sounds of a local pastor being gunned down in his own church parking lot.
I heard 6 shots go off.
Tom Iverson was an eyewitness of what took place after multiple gunshots out his kitchen window. Show me exactly where you saw the shooter stand over Pastor Tim.
This is where the guy was standing, was right here.
Pastor Remington lying on the ground, and Iverson says it wasn't easy to watch. Did you see any life at all in Pastor Tim?
No. It was completely, there was no movement whatsoever from the person on the ground.
Did you think that Pastor Tim was dead at that point?
Yeah, I did. I didn't know it was Pastor Tim, but whoever was laying on the ground, if he hit him with all 6 shots, I figured the person, was dead.
We caught up with some of those who work closely with Pastor Remington at the church.
He really shouldn't be alive, honestly, as many times as they shot at him and as close as they were.
Who says their prayers have been answered, even throwing the doctors for a loop.
He's recovering, he went through surgery, and doctors say he's extremely lucky. We know it's not luck, it was totally God.
Church and family members saying they have already forgiven the shooter.
Nobody here is hateful towards him, mad at him. We actually, care for him. This is the type of people that we want to reach.
As for Pastor Remington, those close to him tell us he should make a full recovery and be back in the pulpit in no time.
He's one of the hardest working people alive, and this is about the only thing that'll keep him from coming to work.
With so many people expressing their condolences for Pastor Remington, they decided to hold a prayer vigil at Candlelight Christian Fellowship at 6 p.m. in Coeur d'Alene. Molly Trotter, KREM 2 News.
Now, we also know Pastor Remington led the prayer at the Ted Cruz rally on Saturday, and a lot of people are wondering if that has any connection to this attack.
Yeah, indeed. Our Ryan Sims is looking into that for us tonight. He joins us live back at the studio with what he found. Ryan?
Yeah, Mark and Jane, other than dealing with the absolute shock of this shooting, the big question people want to know tonight is if Pastor Remington was targeted because of his association with Ted Cruz. As authorities continue to look into that possibility, Pastor Remington's family think that the two events are not related.
There's something else that kind of ties the victim and the suspect together. We don't have that in this case.
Authorities still do not have a motive in Pastor Remington's shooting, including if he was targeted for supporting Ted Cruz.
But at this point, I don't have anything through open source intelligence or anything else that would indicate a motive for this.
As police comb over every possible lead in this case, Pastor Remington's family does not think his support for Cruz led to the shooting. None of the family wanted to talk to us on camera, but in a phone call this afternoon, they told us they do not believe the shooting is about politics or religion. Instead, they told us they believe this is a tragic case of mental health and the terror that it can cause. As for how Pastor Remington was chosen to appear with Ted Cruz at this rally on Saturday, well, we're still trying to figure that out tonight. We called Cruz campaign workers in both Boise and Austin, Texas, but still have not heard back. Earlier today, though, the campaign did acknowledge the shooting, saying in a statement, "Our prayers are with Pastor Tim, his family, and the doctors who are supervising his care. We pray for his full recovery and are thankful for the efforts of law enforcement to ensure that the attacker is swiftly brought to justice."
Just moments ago, Coeur d'Alene police confirmed new online activity that seems to be coming from the shooting suspect himself. For the latest on this, we turn to KREM 2's Whitney Ward, joining us live in the studio tonight. Whitney.
Yeah, more than 48 hours after police said the trail went cold in their search for that suspect, there are new details now about Kyle Odom. Two different things that have happened recently. One, there has been a new post on a Facebook page under the name of Kyle Odom, and two, the profile picture on that page has also changed. Both updated late this afternoon. Now, the personal information on that page is consistent with what we know about Odom, including his pictures, his education, and the time he spent in the military. So I want you to take a look at what was posted on that Facebook page, seemingly within the last hour or so. The post says, "Things are not what they appear to be. The world is ruled by an ancient civilization from Mars. Pastor Tim was one of them, and he was the reason my life was ruined." He goes on to say, quote, "He will be sharing his story with as many people as possible." He says, "I don't have time right now. They are chasing me." That post also states, "I shot Pastor Tim 12 times. There is no way any human could have survived that event. Anyway, I have sent my story to all the major news organizations. I have no time. I have to go." Now, here is the new profile picture, also on the page under the name of Kyle Odom, changed again within the last hour or so from a picture of the suspect to what looks like some kind of drawing of an alien. Now, police say they cannot confirm that it was indeed Kyle Odom who wrote that post or made those changes. They're certainly looking into that possibility, though. They also say this post and the information shared is consistent with a letter and a flash drive that were sent to Odom's parents shortly after the shooting. We're told those documents contained much of the same language and talk of aliens. We will have more on that coming up tonight at 6:30. For now, I'm Whitney Ward, live in the studio, KREM 2 News.
You know, your brain can't even comprehend really what that even means.
Family members of the Idaho pastor shot on Sunday now breathing a sigh of relief as the main suspect in the attempted murder has now been caught. Good evening. Thanks for being here with us tonight. I'm Whitney Ward. We begin with breaking news tonight. The suspect in that Idaho pastor shooting is now in custody. Suspect Kyle Odom was arrested around 6:30 tonight on the other side of the country in Washington, D.C. Police tell us he was seen throwing suspicious items over the White House fence and was then taken into custody by Secret Service agents. Taylor Vito has been following these developments all night, bringing us the very latest from Coeur d'Alene.
Whitney, there was quite a sense of relief tonight inside that press conference with Coeur d'Alene police. The chief of police, Lee White, said that the community can rest easy now. What began with a shooting outside a Coeur d'Alene church on Sunday ended with that suspect being arrested outside the White House tonight.
The community over this incident has really galvanized. They've come together once again, and I think everyone can breathe a big sigh of relief that this, at least this part of the case, has come to a conclusion.
Coeur d'Alene police say they've worked tirelessly with not only law enforcement across the Northwest, but with the Secret Service as well. Tonight, police say 30-year-old Kyle Odom was arrested after he was seen throwing items over the fence of the White House. Those items included flash drives and other objects that were examined by bomb squads. He did not have any guns when he was arrested.
I was told that he was taken into custody safely and without incident, and at least on his person when they took him into custody, he did not have a firearm with him.
It's been quite a day of developments. This afternoon, the profile picture on the Facebook page that authorities believe belongs to Odom was changed to this. This post was shared as well, claiming that Pastor Tim Remington is a Martian and was responsible for ruining Odom's life. Authorities said Odom mailed a rambling manifesto to his family that contained similar remarks. Investigators say Odom traveled south to Boise and flew out of the airport there yesterday. It's not clear how he was able to board the plane with an arrest warrant. Tonight, Odom's family released a statement as well, which was shared by Coeur d'Alene police.
It reads, "We are thankful for the safe apprehension of our son Kyle. As Kyle was not living with us, we are learning of his plans as they are being revealed by the police. We are truly thankful to God he is safe and no one else has been injured."
According to the Kootenai County prosecutor, authorities in Washington, D.C. will now make the determination if Odom will face any charges there. It's possible that he could be extradited straight back to Idaho. Currently, he's facing a single charge of attempted murder. He faces 30 years in prison if convicted. Outside the Coeur d'Alene Police Department, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
Taylor, thank you very much. And now we want to take a closer look at that online post today that was on Odom's Facebook page. Again, it did include much of that same talk of aliens and Martians and even what appears to be a confession. So take a look at that post in its entirety. It says, quote, "Things are not what they appear to be. The world is ruled by an ancient civilization from Mars. Pastor Tim was one of them, and he was the reason my life was ruined." He goes on to say he'll be sharing his story with as many people as possible, then says, "I don't have time right now. They're chasing me. I shot Pastor Tim 12 times. There's no way any human could have survived that. Anyway, I have sent my story to all the major news organizations. I have no time. I have to go." Now, almost immediately after Odom was arrested, police said his social media posts were what helped them track him down. Authorities also told KREM they do believe it was Kyle who wrote those posts online. They say the language and the talk of aliens is consistent with a letter and a flash drive that was sent to Odom's parents shortly after the shooting. In that, it detailed countless politicians and public figures that he had deemed as a threat. Now, as you might imagine, Kyle Odom's arrest is a much-needed piece of relief for Pastor Remington's family. Tonight, the pastor's son talked to us about how a weight has been lifted from that family's shoulders. Ryan Sims has reaction from them tonight, including what they are saying about Pastor Remington's recovery. Ryan?
Yeah, Whitney, now that Kyle Odom is in custody, Pastor Remington's family tell me they can start to move forward and focus on the pastor's recovery tonight. It is something that could actually take a while given the true extent of his injuries as they become known this evening.
I was going to believe that he was going to be, all right until someone told me that it was fatal.
Even in those chaotic, confusing, awful hours after Pastor Remington's shooting, his son Jeremiah remained tough.
I decided that I was going to be good until I was told not to be good.
According to Jeremiah, Pastor Remington was on the phone with one of his other sons when shots rang out. His son thought it was the sound of a slamming car door, but soon it became crystal clear to the family that something terrible had happened.
It was a fact, but at the same point, it wasn't, your brain can't even comprehend really what that even means.
Jeremiah and his siblings have been with their dad ever since. He tells KREM 2 News that his dad is highly sedated and has only spoken a few words since arriving at the hospital. As we've reported, Pastor Remington was shot 6 times, but tonight we're learning the true extent of his injuries, including the fact that he was shot on the side of his head.
The bullet basically ricocheted, in and then in his skull, right above his temple.
Incredibly, Jeremiah says that bullet stopped only a fraction of a millimeter away from his dad's brain. You can't get closer than that. In fact, all 6 bullets missed every vital organ in Pastor Remington's body, something that Jeremiah calls an undoubted miracle.
There's God out there going, nope, you go here, you go here. Oh, no, I'll just scoot you over right there.
Now, remarkably, Pastor Remington's worst injury wasn't to his skull, but actually his shoulder of all places. It was so bad, in fact, that his entire right shoulder had to be reconstructed.
I'm just so thankful for him to be alive. It's kind of like, I'll take what I can get,
Full recovery, as you might imagine, will take a while, but Jeremiah insists his dad will be in fighting form in no time.
I think there's still more people out there. He just has to keep on helping,
All right, and in a sign of how much this story has resonated, Jeremiah says his dad has received well wishes from places as far away as Norway. Reporting from the newsroom tonight, Ryan Sims, KREM 2 News.
Ryan, thank you. And we have been covering this developing story since it broke on Sunday afternoon. We will continue to follow the investigation and bring you the latest information on his arrest on KREM.com, as well as our mobile app.